Thank you, Mark, for those kind words of introduction. I also take the opportunity to welcome everybody this morning, Excellencies, ladies and gentlemen. It is my honor and pleasure to welcome you to this historic conference convened to mark the 70th anniversary of the establishment of the United Nations, as well as the International Court of Justice, the judicial arm of the UN. There is no better place to have convened this summit than here at the Peace Palace, the seat of the World Court. The Peace Palace, or Vredepaleis in Dutch, is a monument to world peace. This magnificent building houses a number of institutions, amongst which is, of course, the International Court of Justice, the Permanent Court of Arbitration, the Hague Academy of International Law, and the Peace Palace Library. It is no wonder that the Peace Palace is often referred to as the Temple of Peace. At this juncture, I wish to thank the Institute for Cultural Diplomacy and the Interparliamentary Alliance for Human Rights for organizing this conference. And a special word of appreciation must go to the Carnegie Foundation, who own the premises, who have graciously permitted us to use this beautiful room for the conference and free of charge. It is also not without reason that the city of The Hague is often referred to as the legal or judicial capital of the world, due to the great number of international courts based here. The range of courts based in The Hague reflects, to a certain extent, the range of issues that international law now addresses. At present, there is one tribunal adjudicating over investment disputes between Iran and the United States arising out of the Iranian Revolution and the subsequent hostage crisis that ensued. There are two tribunals charged with determining criminal responsibility of individuals for war crimes, crimes against humanity and genocide in the former Yugoslavia and Rwanda. It's actually two rolled in one, it's the ICTY. There's another UN-backed tribunal established to prosecute persons involved in the assassination of the Lebanese Prime Minister Rafik Hariri in 2005. And that's the UN Tribunal for Lebanon. There's the International Criminal Court, which was established as a permanent court with criminal jurisdiction over individuals suspected of war crimes, crimes against humanity and genocide. The ICC is probably the most well-known international court in The Hague, and many of the other courts, lesser-known courts, are often confused with the ICC. I cannot tell you how many times I've been asked about cases as to whether I am the one sitting on the case for Lubanga, or why did we decide such and such in the case of so and so, that I have absolutely no idea about. So people are under the impression that the ICC is the only court in The Hague. And of course, until 2012, there was also the Special Court for Sierra Leone, which was responsible for trying Charles Taylor, the former Liberian head of state. And that too was often confused with the ICC. Last, but certainly not least, is the International Court of Justice. This is the oldest and probably the most important of these institutions. The ICJ, as you probably know, does not prosecute individuals for criminal offenses, but rather it resolves disputes between states, and when requested, provides answers to legal questions put to it by other organs of the United Nations. But one common thread that runs through the various and distinct roles played by these courts is the protection and promotion of human rights through the application of international law. Fortunately, many of the institutions that I've just named are represented here during this conference, and we shall have the privilege of hearing speakers from these institutions in the course of the conference. Today, more than ever, the global condition of human rights is a matter of concern to to every right-thinking person. Whether you consider the more outrageous violations of human rights, such as the murder in cold blood of French journalists in Paris, or of Japanese journalists in Syria, the killing of innocent civilians in Donetsk or in southern Sudan, the shooting of an unarmed black teenager by police on the streets of Ferguson, Missouri, the abduction of innocent young girls by the LRA in the jungles of Africa, or by the Janjaweed, or by ISIS, or by the Taliban in Afghanistan. All of these events outrage our collective conscience. But so do the other, more subtle forms of violation of human rights, such as racism, fascism, religious fanaticism, homophobia, and any other form of discrimination that probably lives very close to and around us. These too shock our collective conscience. Thus, the theme of this conference, namely international law and human rights, an interdisciplinary analysis of the role of international law in promoting human rights, could not have come at a more opportune moment. I do sincerely hope that this conference will offer us an opportunity to reflect upon the institutions with which many of us are privileged to be associated, and to consider how effective those institutions are in promoting human rights. The guaranteeing of human rights necessarily entails notions of social justice, equal access to development, and the uncompromising respect for the dignity and worth of every human being. It is about guaranteeing the highest standards of living to all individuals without distinction as to race, gender, language, creed, social or economic background. It's about empowering individuals to reach their full potential in society and ensuring their opportunity to participate in the conduct of public affairs. It's about economic progress in a sustainable and healthy environment. In today's globalized world, where billions of citizens are demanding the development and protection of basic human rights, the development of an effective functioning international law system is of paramount importance. However, the realization of this demand will require both universality and greater magnitude of legislation, together with further development of legal procedures in order to assure the implementation and further development of human rights globally. This summit, which brings together legislators, judges, lawyers, academicians, diplomats, and representatives from global government institutions and stakeholders from around the world, will hopefully foster fruitful discussions and culminate in useful recommendations for the future development of international law and greater protection of human rights globally. Ladies and gentlemen, it is now my singular honor and pleasure to invite someone that I personally admire and look up to, and one that has taken time out of his busy schedule to participate in this conference. I want to start by introducing this individual. And this is His Excellency, Judge Peter Tomka, the current president of the International Court of Justice, who has very graciously taken time out of his busy schedule to come and give us some opening remarks to this conference. Very briefly, there's a very long bio about Judge Tomka, but I will just very quickly summarize. President Tomka was born in Slovakia. I won't tell you the year. But he had his education in amongst others, Charles University, Prague, and in the Faculty of Law in Kiev, Ukraine. He also did some studies at the Institute of International and Public Law and International Relations in Greece, Thessalonica in Greece, and the Hague Academy of International Law. He worked in the Ministry of Foreign Affairs in Czechoslovakia as an assistant legal advisor. These were his early days. But he also served as Slovakia's deputy permanent representative and then ambassador in the United Nations. He was UN's ambassador for a number of years until he was appointed to the court. And if I'm not mistaken, he did also serve on the International Law Commission for a number of years. So he was appointed to the ICJ in 2002, and then he has served also as an arbitrator during the tenure of his service on the ICJ, but he has also served both as vice president and as president of the court. And I think his term ends this week, so we were very lucky to catch him. I think Mark persisted and persisted. And of course, this is a very busy time for President Tomka as he's winding up his duties as president to hand over to the new president